Hello everybody and welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Murray and I am your astrologer. Thank you for joining me. This week's astro weather, because it is the last week of the month of September, we are going to talk all about October 2021. Quite an active month. Maybe you guys have heard me talk a little bit about what's coming with some of the transits in October. I've talked about it on here a little bit, kind of like prefacing, the Mercury retrograde and some other planetary aspects. And I've also talked about it a lot on the Midheaven podcast. But this is going to be the episode where we go deep into what I think is the most important transits of October. And I want to talk to you about the number 4 top aspects that you need to be aware of in the entire month. So this is a really great time to grab your iPhone, grab a pen, paper, however you want to take notes. I will go through all of the different important aspects for the month. Equally, I'm going to talk a little bit about the retrograde. I'm also, at the end of the video, going to pull tarot cards and give you my predictions for each and every one of the 12 signs. So make sure that you stay tuned until the end for all of my predictions. Make sure that you listen for your rising and your sun sign. So hopefully the week has been good to you guys. How was that? How was that Pisces full moon? I feel like people are still kind of coming off of that. But today is September 27th. So number 1 on my list, good morning. Welcome to the Mercury retrograde. I was fully expecting things to be very chaotic this morning, but I feel like thankfully I was a little prepared for this one because, well, Mercury's been in kind of the square to Pluto really for the last week or so. So the energies have felt tense, right? You kind of feel that pressure. So welcome to the retrograde. It actually started, I think, in the early hours last night or this morning, and it's going to be retrograde until October 18th. So if you are watching this video in October, be mindful that the entire month of October is going to be impacted by the Mercury retrograde because the shadow will actually bleed into about the 2nd or the 3rd of November, right? So Mercury, god of communication, business, commerce, phones, text messages, emails, computers, gadgets, cars, contracts, you name it, especially in the sign of Libra, is all a little bit up in the air. Thankfully, I feel like this is a retrograde that's really giving us the opportunity to look towards the future because of the intermittent trines that it will be making to Jupiter in Aquarius. So it's almost like Mercury's having conversations with Jupiter saying, hey, what do I need to know about the future? And Jupiter's like, the future's bright, don't worry, just deal with all this shit. Go and deal with Pluto. And we'll keep sending Mercury back into that frictional kind of confrontational square with Pluto where we need to dig something up and out and clear it out. So usual rules apply when you're dealing with a Mercury retrograde. Read the fine print, be super mindful of what you agree to, what you say, how you communicate. Words can have really, really, really big consequences with squares to Pluto. There can be things that are said, especially in relationships, that cannot be taken back. You may also find that with squares to Pluto, there is this really intense kind of, whether it's internal or external, Plutonian vibe, obsessiveness, fear, things that pertain to the darker side of life, manipulation. Very, very, very important during this retrograde to read the fine print, and equally when communicating with other people, be sure that you're also reading between the lines and seeing and hearing and being aware of all of the things that are not always being said. That's like tone, that's like timing, that's like if somebody, calls you in the middle of the night versus in the middle of the day. These are all kind of Plutonian things. My phone has been bombarded by all kinds of people going, what the hell is going on? Are we in a retrograde? What's happening? This is the whole last week, which I think is kind of colorful because that's very much, I think, the square to Pluto. But also a Mercury retrograde does have us go back to retro, review, rework, reimagine, revise. And in the sign of Libra, the cardinal air sign of Libra, which initiates, ghosts from the past can come back, right? We can definitely hear from exes, and this can be a Mercury retrograde where it's almost as if in some relationships, I think people are going to kind of realize like, oh my God, like that person's never coming back. Or let me just see if I can like knock on that door and if they're going to open it back up. Oh my God, they're not responding. What do I do? So there can be much more intense communication, sometimes even like forceful or demanding or obsessive that can go on, because I think, you know, during a retrograde, we deal with lots of karmic stuff. And there's going to be some power plays because of the squares to Pluto. So I could see it as, you know, maybe you have had that person that has kind of cycled in and out of your life for many years, and you've always kind of just let them get on that, you know, this revolving door of communication. And finally you're shutting that door, and maybe you say, I'm not going to pick up the call. They may call you obsessively, right? Or they may start sending you emails or text messages, or, you know, pick up the phone. And so people are going to start kind of realizing where they're losing power as a result of not being a fair partner, right? Libra is all about fairness, diplomacy. So there's going to be a lot of this stuff that's going to be going on. So it's super, super active for the cardinal signs, whether you are a sun, moon, or rising, especially between 10 and 25 degrees of the cardinal signs. That really kind of nails almost everybody. The only people who get out kind of alive are going to be like the early degrees. I think those who will really want to pay attention, obviously, are going to be the signs that have aspects in Aries or have aspects in Libra. So Libra, sun, moon, rising, or maybe Venus or Mercury. Aries, sun, moon, rising, or Mercury, or Venus also. So if you Venus in Aries, you're going to see that opposition. But this retrograde is an interesting one because it makes trines to Jupiter and also aspects to Saturn. So we still have some loose trines to Saturn. So like I said, Jupiter says the future is bright, sends you to Pluto, says deal with the shit. And then it's going to make aspects to Saturn, which is going to say, congratulations, you've grown up, you had the boundary, you made the plan, now you can move forward. And a lot of these things that are going to be dealt with this month are in preparation for the incoming Venus retrograde later this year. So just a word to the wise, have those uncomfortable conversations. Keep in mind that a lot of what is being dealt with is to be able to create a better, healthier, more fair, balanced, sustainable future, okay? Number two that you need to be aware of is that 4 planets are going to go direct this month. This is big, big, big news. This indicates that the universe and the cosmos are supporting in us moving forward. The energy has been funky. This has been a wild one this year. And I keep telling all of my clients, if you think 2020 and 2021 was crazy, wait till you see 2022. Many of us astrologers, we do not want to give you more than you can kind of bite off and chew, but everything is in preparation, and this build up to what will be happening equally from the eclipses, and we'll talk about that a little bit in this episode, but more so the building aspects next year when the transiting north and south node in Taurus and Scorpio build into a square with Saturn in Aquarius. So that's when we really have to kind of like toe the line. And that's when we're really going to have to commit to some of the things, at least out in the world. And a lot of the inner work is being done this year. So you see a lot of the outer change that happens in 2022. But back to the planets. Both Pluto, Saturn, Jupiter, and finally Mercury will all go direct this month. And when planets go direct, it's a moment of good fortune, things shifting, things changing. We don't always feel when a planet goes direct, not always, but I think with a month like this, when we've had so much friction between Mercury and Pluto, when we've had so much, I think, limitations and stalls from Saturn, when we've seen that Jupiter is really ramping up and getting ready. You know, Jupiter's going to spend, I think, something like 40 days around 22 degrees. So it's a really strong period for Jupiter to be kind of hanging out in preparation to go direct. And when planets go direct, they're very powerful. It's almost like they're sending vibrations out in the sky that's kind of saying like, okay, get ready, here we go. And almost like kind of like a slingshot action I see is the retrograde pulling the planets back. And then when they station and they stay in the same degree for a period of a couple days before they go direct, it's being slingshot forward and we're planning for the future. And if you pay attention to the subtle messages from the cosmos, sometimes you can be aware of what those messages are from those particular planets. So Pluto's been retrograde. We have not really seen fully, what's going on in the shadow aspects of the world. Many people can kind of, have opinions and conspiracies about, shadow governments and things that are happening. But now that Pluto is getting ready to go direct, we're going to become more aware of kind of like the darker things that are going on in the world and what needs to change and be transformed. And Pluto is going to power up, and it's also in preparation for transits in December. Saturn going direct is going to, I think, be a blessing, and that's giving us the opportunity to have reviewed all of our karmic situations. Now we're stepping up to the plate, and we're getting ready to kind of move forward, especially going into the end of this year and the beginning of 2022, where Saturn is going to begin to pick up motion and go through the next kind of like the 20s degrees of Aquarius is when we see bigger changes out in the world, especially like globally, and how we interact with other people. Jupiter going direct is very good news. The planet of abundance and good luck and good fortune and wisdom. So I think Jupiter getting ready to go direct, both Jupiter and Saturn going direct in the same sign, makes me wonder if what we are facing is huge changes regarding how we are approaching things environmentally, how we are banding together, how we are stepping up for groups of people and initiating change globally. So I'm excited to see what happens with that. I'm excited to see what happens with travel. But part of me wonders, while having both of these planets direct, if we are also going to see more limitations or possibly even stricter laws or regulations towards the end of this year. And so I'm not completely convinced that the world is totally open or free yet. Equally, I'm not completely convinced that we're not going to have another lockdown. So we will have to wait and see. And then finally, Mercury will go retrograde right around October 18th. That may be a day where you start to feel that communication is opening up more. It's easier to communicate. Things become a little bit more stable. Mercury is going to be in some very harmonious aspects equally to still the North Node and to Saturn. So if you are reworking something, working out relationship issues, working out changes in your schedule. A lot of this depends on where Libra lands in your chart, so it's important to know. You may not opt or to decide to really begin to move forward, I believe, until closer to mid-October. So I think it's probably going to be sometime between when we have the conjunction between Sun, Mercury, and Mars, which will be the 9th. I kind of get the impression somewhere around like the 9th to the 15th, we have a lot of like aha moments and go, this is what I'm doing. And then we really start to put it into action and start to see it moving forward from the 18th of October on. But those of you guys who are a little spooked by the retrograde, keep in mind that even post-retrograde, we're still going to see Mercury come into its third and final square with Pluto. And when something squares off with Pluto, especially Mercury, it's about killing off, I think, mental power struggles or difficult communication or verbal barbs or how we communicate with other people. And then actually later in the month, we are also going to see Mars come into a square with Pluto as well. So these are some very explosive energies that are happening all month long. And, we are in Libra season until the sun moves into Scorpio later in the month. Libra is generally about partnership, balance, fairness, diplomacy, kind of finding win-win situations for everybody and being able to really build up relationships. However, with all of these squares from Libra to Pluto, it's very reminiscent of some of the energies that we had in 2021, where there was a lot of unrest and there was a lot of conflict and there was a lot of breaking and severing, especially during that Mars retrograde last year. And we also saw a rise in a bunch of people that were like protesting and actual violence that was taking place around the world. So this is a month that I feel like, I'm not a fearmonger, but the micro and the macro are very much experiencing conflict, anger, aggression, things heating up, and this build up into finally bursting when the Sun and Mercury and Mars come together and we go, this is what we're doing. It is energy that is symbolic of war. We can't talk about Mars without talking about war. And when we see Mars and Pluto square off, tensions will rise. So you will see this equally in your own personal world and globally. And Libra is all about other people. It's almost like a mirror, right? And it can have two opinions or two perspectives because it weighs the options and it sees both sides. So in a lot of ways, those who have been treated unfairly, laws that have not really been protecting the individual, relationships that have kind of been, hanging in balance, all of these things are going to kind of come up for review and give us the opportunity to take action and move collectively into stronger relationships or sever them, okay? Number 3, there is a new Mars and Mercury cycle that is beginning. Now, it's not always that I talk about this, but I am a big, trying to get more so into teaching and educating people, not just being like, here's a horoscope. So when I say it's being reborn, this month we are going to see both Mercury, the mind, and Mars, the warrior, come into conjunction with the sun. So it's being reborn, it's starting a new cycle. And this cycle will go from these particular dates this month until the next time that these planets meet with the sun and they're reborn again. So when we're breaking this down, we look at Mars in Libra. So Mars is war, courage, action, severing, cutting, change, right? It's heat, it's things that are sharp. And then we have the sun, which is energy, vitality, ego, focus, empowerment. And we have Mercury, communication, ideas, business, all coming into conjunction. Okay, so automatically, having both Mars and also the sun in Libra is a challenging energy because usually the sun and Mars, which are very much associated with like Leo and Aries, are very fiery and they're independent and it's about the self. So when it's thrown into the sign of Libra, it's a little bit kind of wonky, it's unbalanced, it can be a little bit more chaotic, it can be sometimes a little more lethargic, and it can also make it more challenging to deal with our own personal issues because we're constantly having to go back and forth with other people. Mars also may want military action. Venus wants peace, diplomacy, and it really wants to be able to have conflict resolution. So when we see these two moving together with the sun, what we're going to see out in the world is tempers are gonna flare. And with Mercury being thrown into the mix and Mercury being retrograde, it's indicating the need to have a deeper internal dialogue regarding our personal inner relationships, why we're in relationships, the relationships with ourselves, how we need to do more about relationships or become more motivated to work and partner with other people, and where we need to kind of find that balance. Equally, sometimes that leads us down the path of severing and going, I'm done. So this is gonna be an action for the better part of the next 2 years. Those of you guys who are like, well, how do I know this is really gonna happen? How can this be used for predictive methods? Go back, I think it was September of 2019. This is the last time that we had conjunctions like this, and it was in Virgo, okay? About health and wellness, things pertaining to organization, care of others. And shortly after, months later, we had the beginning of the pandemic, and now the last 2 years has been so focused on our healthcare, our wellness, are we of service to other people? Are we helping other people? Also, we have had all kinds of things happen recently where people in specific workforces are being expected to, to take the COVID vaccine. So that in itself, because Virgo rules workers and people who are in the areas of specific trades. I think of like people who cut hair, hospitality, things of that nature. All of those businesses have been majorly impacted. Equally, we've had to take a look at what we need to work on and kind of better when it comes to our healthcare, right? So that gives you an idea of what's happened for 2 years. So for the better part of the next 2 years, there is going to be a lot of friction and heated egos is kind of what I'm predicting. Justice and equality are likely to be key themes. Also, review of personal rights. I think that's going to be something else that's going to come up, and expect to see things move very quickly in the justice system, very quickly with change or turnover regarding particular laws. People who are going to get very invested and they're going to get very I think, motivated to go out there and start working with people and talking to people about these laws and getting things potentially changed. Equally, this can be an omen in the sky of conflict and people who are just more aggressive and more confrontational. So look for where Libra is in your chart. There is a very powerful impulse to take action and find balance. If you are a Libra, sun, moon, or rising, pay attention. This is going to be a very, very busy time for you this month. If your birthday is somewhere around mid-October, really great time also equally to get a birthday reading and look at your solar return, because there is an indication that you are having some kind of a review about where you're taking action in the next year, and it'll be very, very, very obvious right around the mid-month of your birthday, and you'll start seeing all these things building up until basically you kind of stand up and go, that's it, I'm creating a change. I'm a Libra rising. I'm feeling it big time. It's definitely kind of pushed me just on a personal level to just be more communicative and more direct with people. And it's also opposed my moon. So I'm also seeing where a lot of it's pertaining to frustrations that are coming as a result of, you know, me kind of being a little bit of a Libra rising, right? Just being a little too passive, or just a little too go with the flow. So I have found that this energy has been really beneficial for me to not look at conflict necessarily as a negative thing, but an opportunity to kind of clear out the old. So keep in mind, you guys have been through these transits before, you can go through them again, and you want to use this to create change. Number 4, you will begin to feel the eclipse energy very soon. We're coming into the 6 to 8 week period range where eclipses are going to be beginning. They're going to be happening this fall. I assume you're going to feel this more so when planets go direct and we start to feel the forward motion. We have an eclipse that's going to be on November 19th, and that'll be a full moon lunar eclipse in Taurus. And then we have a eclipse on December 4th that will be a new moon solar eclipse in the sign of Sagittarius. So eclipses we usually feel about anywhere from 6 weeks, maybe 4 to 8 weeks prior, depending on, you know, how it's aspecting your chart. But because this video is going to span for the whole month of October, some of you guys may not really start feeling it maybe until right around the end of October or Halloween. But be mindful that when these eclipses come in, they are big energies that ask us to open and close doors. So I see this buildup of what's happening this month as the setup for ultimately what we're going to let go of and what we're going to start new. So if you are a Scorpio or a Taurus, pay attention, big changes are coming for you. Equally, all of the fixed signs will have some big life changes that will be happening as a result of the November eclipse. And then on December 4th, that eclipse will be in Sag. So if you're a Sagittarius or a Gemini, I know you guys have been going through the eclipses for the last year and a half. This is wrapping that up, and that is going to be the last one. But I believe that one is somehow an aspect to Venus, if I remember correctly. I may have to double check that, but don't worry, I'm going to do videos on that. I'm hoping to actually just do separate videos for the eclipses and get those out for you guys hopefully in the next month or so you can start listening and knowing how to prepare for that. And I've been doing a deep dive into some of the fixed stars and creating a whole list of predictions and things that are going to come for those eclipses, so stay tuned. All right, so let's go ahead and jump into the astro weather. Let's take a look at the chart and the days of this month that I find the most important and why. All right, let me take a coffee break. Are you guys ready for Halloween? I've been ready since September. Can you tell? You should see my house. It's gonna be a spooky, spooky month. All right, so we start on the first of the month in October. And it kicks off right off the bat with Mercury in Libra, square Pluto in Capricorn. I want you to think back to what was happening. Actually, I could go back in time. Let me see, when was the last time that we had this? Give me 1 second. Because this is the second square. So the first square was taking place like the 20th of September through like the 25th. It was basically all the way up until the time that Mercury was stationing. So think about what was happening like the last 10 days of September and that pressure that was going on. Now Mercury is going to go retrograde and it's going to square Pluto again. Intense conversations, unearthing of information, secrets coming out. I feel energetically what's going on in the world is there's a lot of people who are trying to bring stuff to the surface, and it's stuff that's been hidden or secretive or pushed down, or not allowed to kind of see the light of day. And so I think that this is a period of time that I would really pay attention, because it's going to bring some of this stuff back up. Equally, if you have been in a situation where you've been kind of going back and forth and trying to decide the best time to have a conversation with somebody, this may be the day that it comes up. Watch also, starting the very beginning of the month, and this has been happening since the end of September, the sun is moving very quickly, and it spends like almost 2 weeks conjunct Mars. So there's a lot of action and movement and things going on, where it's like, we're being asked by, I think, the stars and the planets right now to learn what it takes to really be in relationship, right? And with the aspects that are building and have been building since the end of September, from the Sun and Mars to Saturn, it's how we are moving, I think, into better boundaries and kind of laying the groundwork for relationships that work for everyone. But sticking to this Mercury square Pluto, watch out for invasions of privacy. I'm kind of expecting maybe part of what's coming is that there could be some kind of a leak of information, or we might see that there is some kind of like an internet hack, or that there is going to be somebody who kind of breaks into information and something like that happens. So watch for that particular day. That square will come back up again, and that will be I actually believe that's going to be closer to Halloween through the beginning of November. When the shadow is ending, we will have another Pluto square. So it's wanting to kind of release something in waves maybe, or there will be little bits and pieces of information about something that comes out, and people are like, whoa, this is a really big deal. And then we find out more around the beginning of November. Then on the 3rd of this month, we see that Mercury in Libra comes into a trine with Aquarius, Jupiter in Aquarius for the second time. So Mercury having conversations with Jupiter. Like I said, Jupiter says, the future is bright. Don't worry, everything's going to be fine. But you need to collectively talk to other people, work with other people. I like Mercury in a trine to Jupiter, especially because it can be really great for talking about partnerships and gatherings. It can be talking about making plans for travel. Ironically, in the midst of a Mercury retrograde, I assume that the month of October is a bit dicey for a lot of people who are going back and forth and saying, do I buy the plane ticket? It's Mercury retrograde. Am I going home? Am I seeing my family? Is there going to be limitations? Do I feel safe traveling? This is what a lot of people are going to be kind of talking about. But I think with Mercury in trine to Jupiter, especially retrograde, there is some kind of good news that's kind of boomeranging and coming back around. So it's great for future planning. It can also be globally, like a lot of like larger companies or bigger companies kind of going, maybe we're going to kind of play around with the idea of like really starting to come back into the office, or gatherings more so in the new year. On the 6th of the month, this will be a new moon that we are having in Libra. And let me tell you, this is no ordinary new moon. It's tightly conjunct Mars, which is very explosive, but it's wonderful for getting us into action. So new moons are new opportunities, new beginnings, with the conjunction to Mars that's happening, and also still in harsh aspect to Chiron. This is a wound, essentially. That's really what's going on. We're dealing with a wound. So I will go deeper into this particular episode, or this particular new moon. I'm actually going to be doing that next week on my channel. I'll be doing that on Monday. We'll dive deep into all of the aspects, but one thing I know for sure is that when we're dealing with a new moon in Libra, it gives us the opportunity to see from somebody else's perspective, set new intentions revolving around relationships, but we want to look at Venus, okay? And Venus at the time of the new moon will be at around 29 degrees of Scorpio. Venus isn't happy in Scorpio. Venus equally is not totally thrilled about being at 29 of Scorpio. So that is going to be like a dire moment, and when people are going to start to realize that love may be moving out of the shadows and into the light. I think of like Venus in Scorpio can be like this really dark, kind of secretive, jealous, possessive energy. And when it breaks into Sagittarius, it goes, I need freedom. I need fun. I need information. I need knowledge. I need travel. And so Venus will do better in that particular sign, but there is going to be some dire things that are going to begin happening, both with Venus being at 29 degrees and then in the days to follow, Venus crossing the South Node, which is an omen of releasing and letting go of relationships. So it's already off the bat. October is getting wild. I laugh, like I think my co-host for my podcast was like talking about like cuffing season, and like, you know, cuffing season is usually in October and everybody's getting into relationships because they're preparing for the holidays. When in reality, I think October is a lot of severing. So it's really kind of counter to what you actually usually see. Also, Pluto will go direct in Capricorn this day, ruler of Venus in this chart. And Pluto is technically the second sign to Libra, so there's going to be big conversations revolving around values changing and how we feel about that. Pluto will go direct, ending its retrograde, and will also receive a square from the moon the following day. So there is some really intense emotions that are building up in early and mid-October. Pluto going direct is going to give us the ability, like I said, to kind of become more aware of power struggles in our life. And in the days ahead, you will see, like Mercury, and then also the Sun, and also Mars. They will all come into a square with Pluto. And when you're dealing with those squares, it is basically saying something has to die off, something has to be let go. We need to release it, let it go. So I'm gonna I would sing for you guys, but I'm tone deaf, so it's just like cue the Frozen song. That's basically what I want you guys to keep in mind in the month of October. Then in the next couple of days, we've got on the 7th, Venus enters Sagittarius. Yay! It's a little bit more fun. It's more freedom-based. It's more lively, passionate, but definitely needs a lot of room to roam. And Sagittarius is a mutable fire sign, so it is changeable. So we are adapting and changing to something shifting regarding relationships, finances, perhaps even. And then on the 9th of the month, this is the big day. This is the day you want to circle in red Sharpie on your calendar. This is the day that I said that Mercury and Mars are reborn. This is the day that Mars, Mercury, and the Sun will all sit at 16 degrees of Libra. What can I say, man? There is some wild stuff happening with this conjunction. The Cazimi that's happening with Mercury and the Sun, where new information comes to light. I like that this is in a trine kind of both to Saturn and also to Jupiter. So it's helping us collectively plan towards the future. So if you're in a situation where you're like, the Mercury retrograde makes me really nervous, I don't know if I want to make a change. I don't know if I leave the marriage. I don't know if I quit my job. I don't know if I sell my car. Wait until you get the information on the 9th. Begin making changes physically, probably, later in the month, closer to the dates that I give you. But this is the day that you want to wait and watch for, because there will be some highlight of information that almost comes out of nowhere. Something else I didn't talk a lot about, but now that I'm looking at this, the first week or so of October, we see Mars, the Sun, and Mercury all also creating inconjuncts or quincunx to Uranus and Taurus. Both of these are Venus-ruled signs. Taurus is more about what's mine, my stability, my security, and Libra is more, okay, us and we. And the aspect of the quincunx or the inconjunct is very uncomfortable, and it's basically trying to get you to reconcile something. So be mindful that a lot of this irritation is also coming from that, where Uranus and Taurus wants us to upend and create unconventional changes and shifts towards the future of Taurus themes. Stability, finances, the money we have, the things we buy, our purchasing power, our earth, how we grow our food, what's going on also with the markets. So there's going to be just this kind of like, and this is very Libra Aries, but it's like more when it's Taurus, when it's Taurus and Libra, it's like my security and your security. And it's like, okay, but how do we build together? So that's going to be a reoccurring theme that's also happening this entire month. But pay attention to what's happening. Many people are going to want to be thrown into action with Mercury and Mars. It's the, I'm doing it now. But Mercury might indicate, because it's retrograde, there is like a little bit of like a blind spot And I would encourage you to probably wait a little bit longer until closer to when it goes direct to really start initiating. But this is when you can start planning, if that makes sense. Then on the 10th of the month, Saturn goes direct in Aquarius after 5 long months of reflection and limitations. So if you have any real prominent Saturn aspects in your chart right now, if you're in your Saturn's return, if you're like 29 to 30, if you have Aquarius placements anywhere between, like, let's say 5 and 10 degrees, you're really going to start to feel things begin to open up this day. You might also kind of feel like there is just a shift energetically that's going to happen. But Saturn, when it's direct, it's giving us the opportunity to really focus on forward motion and planning and like long, sustainable Aquarius change. So that's going to be super awesome for moving forward. Then what we have on the 15th of the month. There we go. We have the Sun in Libra trine Jupiter in Aquarius. Sun in Libra, highlighting partnerships, balance, and relationship. Jupiter in Aquarius, which is fun. I see this as expansion, knowledge, wisdom, gathering with groups, possibly even, us being able to kind of move around a little bit more freely. Just an overall really positive, optimistic day. The moon joins the bunch in all of this. And so I think that's quite wonderful because it's kind of highlighting like, hey, collectively, this is where we're going forward. Can just be like an overall pretty lucky day, actually, when you think about it, especially when that conjunction happens. So great day for parties, great day for get-togethers, great day for, talking to friends and being able to kind of gather in groups. I'm interested to see what happens this day, if there's going to be group gatherings that will be taking place. On the 17th of the month, we have the Sun in Libra square Pluto in Capricorn. So this will be that kind of killing off energy, the awareness of where there's abuse of power. There can definitely be, ego battles and, kind of flare-ups and things that are happening at this time. I noticed that the moon comes into conjunction with Neptune, so it also is in quite a bit of friction to the Sun and Mars, once again bringing up that quincunx of, are we really sure of where we're going? Are we spiraling and spinning out? Are we jumping to conclusions? Are we worrying? Is there panic? So that's something that I want you to pay attention to. But Sun square Pluto is definitely a day where I think that we're finally going to begin to start to see, now that Mercury is getting ready to go direct, the full effects of what has been hidden and kept from us and what is actually being killed off. So the Sun in Libra is really highlighting also the justice system, and with the squares to Pluto, what the government is or is not doing to be able to protect the rights of individuals. And then the days to follow, how we respond to that, okay? Equally, it can be how we're responding and, getting together, especially in terms of potential acts of war or deployment. That's something else that I'm kind of watching to see what may happen. On this day, Jupiter goes direct, so that is overall quite positive. I'm also looking at Jupiter that is still in a trine to the Sun and Mars. Keep in mind, guys, what's happening is that the Sun and Mars is going through these degrees where Mercury started to retrograde, that 24, 25 degrees. So anything from the 17th on is going to be bringing up some kind of action that we're taking as a result of the ideas that we had in late September and early October about what we wanted to finish or end. Then on the 19th, Mercury will officially be direct at 10 degrees in a trine to Saturn in Aquarius. We also see that Mars is building into the square with Pluto. This gets highlighted quite a bit on the 20th of the month, and this is one to watch. This will be the full moon in Aries, and it will be in a square to Pluto and in opposition to Mars. So something is kicking off majorly that requires a lot of action and a lot of change. This is a day to move slowly. This is a day to be aware that there are some very heated tempers. When the full moon is in Aries, individuals are very charged to change things. So with the squares to Pluto, I think collectively what we may find is that the way to work towards orchestrated change is banding together and really being aware that on a personal level, we're also really fed up with things. So fighting with other people is not necessarily going to make things better. We can't fight fire with fire. We actually have to band together. So that Sun Mars in opposition to the moon. Also going to be watching with what's going on with the military, watching with what's going on in the world, because this to me seems like there's something brewing where there is some major kind of send off of soldiers that may be happening. All right. Then, and also I'll come back, I'll do a video on that. You'll get that later in the month, and we'll dig deep into how it's going to affect everybody. On the 22nd, this is when we see the Pluto-Mars square. And so this is more action-oriented. It can be violent. It can, especially with squares to Pluto, produce severing, cutting, burning, accidents, things that are explosive, things that blow up. So we really want to pay attention to what's going on around this day, especially those of you guys who are like 23 to 29 degrees of the cardinal signs. Pay very close attention, because there is going to be some things that are kind of boiling over that day. On the 23rd of the month, the sun moves into Scorpio. So happy birthday to all of the October Scorpios. Your solar return is coming. It's a really good time to consider getting a reading, especially because in the year ahead, you will have aspects to both Saturn and Aquarius and Uranus and Taurus. And 2022 will be full of T-squares that are going to put you in action, but it's also going to start breaking down aspects in your life where you have felt locked and where you have felt blocked and unable to move forward. And it is going to give you a whole year to reconcile with 3 different parts of your chart. So talking to an experienced reader can be really, really beneficial. When the sun enters Scorpio, we're preparing to start turning inward, looking at the shadow self, looking at Pluto and Mars energy, what needs to be reborn. If you take a look around, at least here in the northern hemisphere, this is when the trees begin to die and we start to see that the leaves fall and it gets a little colder and the veil gets a little thinner. So there's no coincidence that the end of October and Scorpio season is very spooky. And it's going to get spookier for a lot of other reasons towards the end of October. Then we have on the 26th, Venus in Sagittarius comes into a square with Neptune in Pisces. So on one hand, the squares can be softening, they can be spiritual, they can be very emotional, it can be great for music, poetry, things like that. But Venus square Neptune, especially in these signs, can be a lot of needing to practice compassion, especially on a global level, for women, femininity, the divine, things of that nature. And I feel like you want to watch out for putting certain relationships or love on a pedestal. You want to watch out for financial scams, things that are not necessarily what they may seem. I think that thankfully, even though there is a square going on, there is a sextile to Mars happening, and there equally is a sextile to Jupiter. So, this isn't like the stereotypical, like, oh, everybody's going to realize, their partner is not what they seem kind of transit. There's a lot of other supporting factors here from Jupiter and from Mars. So there's going to be people who are going to be like, don't you see what's going on? Like, you don't see that this is a scam? So there's some support happening. But Venus square Neptune is really the need to realize that in some relationships, we do have rose-colored glasses. People may not be what they may seem. There can be some disappointment, some confusion, and some intentional confusion in misleading in love or finance. So watch out for that day. Then on the 30th of the month, we have Mars entering Scorpio. So we've got Mars in Scorpio. We've got Pluto direct. The sun is in Scorpio. Mars will stay in Scorpio until the end of 2021. And so now Mars is building into kind of moving and rubbing up against the sun. And also coming into squares with both Saturn and Uranus. So Sun and Mars in Scorpio is a little scary for Halloween. How appropriate. Actually, I was looking at the transits of Halloween. I can show that to you guys in a second. It's an interesting one. But the sun square Saturn that day is going to feel like a stop sign, or it's going to feel like a speed bump, and that there is some kind of like limitation. And then as we get into early November, Mars will square Saturn, and the sun and Mars will also oppose Uranus. Just for the fun of it, on Halloween, the sun will be in Scorpio, obviously at an 8. Mercury is now direct. It's trine Jupiter. I'm imagining there's going to be some Halloween parties. We've got the moon in Virgo, and it will be building into oppositions with Neptune. So it can be a good time for getting together with other people, but I think with the moon in opposition to Neptune, we are still going to see some that are a little iffy about going out and socializing, or maybe they're going to want to do it outside or anything like that. Equally, with the moon in Virgo in opposition to Neptune, but a sextile to the sun and Mars, and eventually it will be a trine to Pluto. Can be a really fun time to just stay home, order pizza, watch horror movies. Like that's usually what I like to do. So, and with a trine to Uranus. So this is not a bad day for Halloween, but still some hesitation revolving around, I think, people kind of getting together, because the moon will come into an opposition and a square between Venus and Neptune. Anyway, that's the month at a glance for you guys. Hopefully that was helpful. Let's pull a couple cards for each and every one of the 12 signs to see what you have in store for the month of October. Make sure that you listen to your sun and your rising sign for these predictions. And I'm going to keep telling you guys, go and look at your natal chart, see where Libra is in your chart. Be super aware of that, because that's where there is so much action happening for you this week, this month, this week, this month, whatever. Same thing. It's not even October yet for me, so. Well, I'm just happy to be here and be here early. So let's take a look at what Aries needs to be aware of. In Aries, Libra is your 7th house of partnerships, relationships. All right, so what does Aries need to be aware of for the month ahead? The Lovers. So the Lovers, partnerships, love, devotion, commitment, choices, challenges. There's some duality with this card. This is a card that's also associated with Gemini. So you could be going back and forth with a Gemini. You could be going back and forth with two people. There can be a lot of like you trying to decide, you know, do I love this person still? Do I want to be with them? Do I confess my love to them? But this is about choices, right? And how you communicate and express love. So I think that you're working with this a lot this month. Equally, I feel like there can be a situation where one door closes and another one opens. So if you're really ready to move on from something, the universe is going to encourage you to do so. So that way you can be more so ready. Equally, if there is somebody who comes back and says, I still love you, or, you know, I never fell out of love with you, that would not surprise me. It's kind of hard not to love you, Aries. And there's a lot of support also with planets in Aquarius, where friends may give you a lot of really good advice about this situation this month. So for Taurus and Taurus rising, Libra for you is a fellow Venus sign, but Libra is your 6th house, Taurus. And really this deals with your health, your wellness. It is dealing a lot with your schedule and things that pertain to your schedule, coworkers, where you're working, all of that stuff. You get the Page of Wands. And the Page of Wands is about action. So I see this as like, where are you taking action? Where are you cleaning and organizing the house? Where are you cleaning and organizing a closet? Where are you becoming more aware of your goals? Where do you need to actually physically do something? Are you needing to like organize work and creative projects with other people? Is there a need for you to clean up your relationships? The Page of Wands is going to give you the opportunity to start that, but equally it's going to give you the opportunity, I think, to focus on new creative endeavors that if you need assistance from other people, they may appear and give you the assistance that you need. If you have health goals, get moving, work up a sweat, do some cardio, that would be good for you. For Gemini and Gemini rising, this is going to be a fellow sister air sign. So this is happening in your 5th house. So a retrograde in the 5th house can be re-evaluating your self-expression, re-evaluating if you're self-employed, re-evaluating somebody that you're dating. If you're going back and forth with a partner, you can be trying to decide if you want to take it to the next level. You can be discussing whether or not you want to have a baby. King of Pentacles. This tells me, well, a couple things. One is that you're solid, right? And that this can be talking about you specifically and being like, how much do I want to invest in this? Or whether it's a person, whether it's a stock, whether this is a project. This can also be somebody who comes into your life that's actually going to help you with the process of bringing in more. Libra is other people. So there can be other people who come in and basically say, hey, I'll help you build this. I'll help you create it. Can be an earth sign. So it can be a Virgo or a Taurus or a Capricorn. And somebody who also possibly offers you some kind of support if they're a superior. So this can be like an older man. This can be like a parent. This can be like a boss. So somebody who comes in and wants to help you with that. Next up, we have Cancer. And Cancer, for you, this is your 4th house of home. So there's a lot of activity in reviewing and revising your home, your family, where you're living, if you're moving, if family's moving to you, if you're moving in with some of them, if they're calling you. This is also your inner emotional world. So it's how you feel on an emotional level. And under the guise of Libra, there's a lot changing for you pertaining to your home life, where you're living, and your partnerships. And you're probably feeling like you're being pulled at all different directions. So let's see what Cancer needs to know. Okay, that card wanted to come out. 8 of Wands, you are moving and shaking. You're either in the process of moving, clearing house, getting ready to leave, you're ready to go. Something may happen, something may change very quickly where you're in a situation where you don't have time to stop and think. You just have to keep it moving. My advice to you is that if you are a sign that is moving, buying a house, selling a house, watch out for mistakes. Watch out for things you overlook. If you're buying a home, have it looked at, have it evaluated, have it inspected. If you're selling a home, make sure that everything is going to go through. If you're signing a lease, same deal. But to me, it looks like within 8 weeks, you're somewhere new. So that's really positive. Okay, so for Leo and Leo rising, for you, this is your 3rd house. It's all about communication, travels, cars, contracts. I want you to be really mindful of vehicles, Leo, or travel. So there can be situations where, somebody comes back to you and says, hey, actually, you know what? We're going on the trip. Can you come? You can also have a situation where you're having to reevaluate whether or not you want to update a vehicle, sell a vehicle, sign a lease. You equally also can be considering moving. I feel like Leos are going to hear from a lot of people from the past. Like there's going to be a lot of people who you were affiliated with romantically who can call you and text you out of the blue. This could also be a situation where it's happening because it's the universe's way of saying like, okay, if you're happy with the growth that you've made in relationships, really shut that door and watch out for what people say to you because it may not all be what it seems. 7 of Cups. So yeah, there's some fishy stuff going on. There's some people that are telling you things that are not true. There are some people that are trying to fuck with your head. There are some people that are sending you messages and maybe getting you all in your feelings, and you just need to be really aware that not everything is what it seems. Don't get bombarded and overwhelmed with all of the options. Stay the course. If you made the decision earlier this year to cut somebody loose, really think about whether or not you want to let them back in. It's almost like there's too many options for you that could be happening and you can be getting overwhelmed. So if this is too many options with moving, too many options with a car, take a step back. Probably don't make a more serious decision until later in the month, okay? For Virgo and Virgo rising, for you, this is your 2nd house. So it's a lot of reassessing, what do I value? What is my purchasing power? How much money do I have? What money do I want to make? And how much do I value relationships, right? Some of you Virgos have been working really hard. You want raises. Some of you guys are trying to assess your budget, pay things off, determine if you can afford something. That can be happening. Equally, a lot of it is about what are you bringing in from creative endeavors, right? And if you are somebody who has a side hustle, or if you have launched a business this year, are you breaking even? Are you making money? What's that looking like for you? Page of Pentacles. So to me, it seems like the opportunity to start really focusing on getting a better grasp of your finances. To me, this also seems like there can be a financial opportunity, or there's some gold in the situation. So if there's a hang up and like you need to return something, or you need to kind of review or revise something that you invested in, there's some positive stuff here. I think it's giving you the opportunity to start thinking more seriously about your finances and how you can get ahead more so financially. I also kind of feel like with the aspects that it's making to Saturn in your 6th is a lot of like, what are you eating? So some of you guys may be making changes in how you're physically eating this month as well, especially if you have a certain set of goals health-wise. So that can be really positive as well. A lot more veggies with the Page of Pentacles. All right, so Libra and Libra rising. This is your first house. A lot of it is how you look, how you communicate, your relationship with yourself, finding balance. There's definitely a little bit of friction because you're one of the cardinal signs because of Pluto. How you're communicating your emotions, how you're expressing yourself to who you live with or your family, and some intense energy that's going to feel like standoffs, and whether it's people that you live with or finally your emotions are kind of bubbling over and you're having some conflicts with family. You're going to tell some people exactly what's on your mind this month, and you really need an outlet, and you need to stay focused on yourself and boundaries with yourself and just staying physically active so you're not like ripping people's heads off, okay? Knight of Pentacles. So to me, it seems like learning to slow down, right? So of all the knights, this is the one that is the most kind of aware, grounded. He's not rushing. He's taking his time. He's thinking about things. He's thinking about where he invests his time or his energy. This can also be a message involving finances and something that comes in that you're hearing about that's going to come in later down the line later this year. It can also be you working a lot with an earth sign, so a Virgo or a Taurus or a Capricorn, and somebody who brings some kind of information or news to you or starts talking to you about staying more grounded in some of this stuff. This is a positive card, but it's definitely either going to deal with your health or your financial situation and taking a slow and steady approach to creating change. Sometimes that means before jumping into something or having a conversation, slowing down, counting to 10, thinking about it before making a decision, okay? It's going to be hard for you Libras. You guys are going to have a lot of planets in Libra, and it's conjunct Mars, and just take your time, slow down. Scorpio, Scorpio rising. Libra is your 12th house. It is very spiritual. It's behind the scenes. It's what people don't always see. A lot of it is about clearing or healing. It can be about clearing or healing old relationship karma. It can be about clearing and healing subconsciously or on a spiritual level. It can have you feeling like you need more rest or recuperation, and that there is something new that's going to emerge soon for you with relationships after this period. So it's a lot of reflecting on things that didn't work so you can move more into the future, but also talking a lot with partnerships and maybe working on a spiritual or a psychological level when it comes to relationships. 8 of Wands, that card jumped out. So it's like saying like, we gotta wrap this stuff up because of where we're going. So we have to let go of all of the fears. We have to let go of all the insecurities. We have to let go of like the inner panic or something pertaining to feeling like, oh my God, life is changing very quickly. For Scorpio and Scorpio risings, there's a lot of changes that have happened this year, but the changes are going to keep on keeping on into the new year. And you're going to find that the more that you're willing to let go of the past and embrace the future, the easier this becomes. For Sag and Sag rising, for you guys, this is going to be happening in your 11th house. And this is all about friends, association, your goals, parties, get-togethers, friends from the past maybe coming back, situations where you're reevaluating your goals, and asking yourself, where do I see myself going, or who are my true friends? And there's going to be a lot of action there because you might introduce a romantic partner to friends. You might meet somebody through a party. You might have, somebody who wants to set you up with somebody. Something like that can kind of be happening for you. Parties, weddings, get-togethers, celebrations. 4 of Wands is saying get out there, get active, get social. If you're invited to things, go, because people want to meet you equally. There are going to be stronger bonds and relationships and friendships that are going to be born as a result of these transits. Friends may call you and say, come over now. There's somebody here that I want you to meet. And you kind of have to pivot and be on your feet and be ready to go. But on the flip side, I think that this can be really awesome because it's going to be the most social period of time for you this year, before we really get into Scorpio season in November, where that's kind of like that in preparation for your birthday, and there's a lot of clearing that's going to happen. So enjoy this month, get out there, have a good time. If you're invited to concerts, shows, anything outdoors, celebrations, definitely will have a good time. And for for Capricorns and Cap rising, for you, this is going to be your 10th house. Holy cow, Capricorn, get ready. There's going to be changes going on, either on one hand, it's like the 10th house, I see it as like your destiny. It's like your fate out in the world. It's your public image. So it can be like, for some of you guys, I was single, now I'm partnered. I was married, now I'm divorced. I worked for this company, now I work for myself. There can be changes at work. There can be changes where companies are getting bought out. There can be situations where you're finding that you're not getting along with the boss. There can be situations where people who you used to work with may be coming back and asking you if you'd be willing to return to work with them or for them. Pay attention. I feel like with transits in the 10th house and a square to your sign, it's really asking you, are you willing to change? And how are you holding on to one old way of being so tightly that you're unwilling to change something about your image out in the world? A lot of it's going to be about relationships. And so if you have kind of walled yourself off from relationships, it's how could that change, right? But it will be an intense time for you. The good news is the 9 of Cups says you're going to get everything you want. So with this trine that's also happening between your 10th house and your 2nd house, perhaps maybe they come back to you and you say, there's no way I would work for you ever again. But they give you a very lucrative offer, right? Or they would say, we're going to take better care of you. You're going to get these benefits. You're going to be the boss this time. And you go, oh, well, maybe I would consider that. Equally, it can be that a relationship comes back to you and they say, I've bettered myself. I'm more so ready. I've changed. Will you give me a chance? The 9 of Cups is the wish card. So it's basically saying, ask for what you want. Be really aware of your value. Saturn and Jupiter now are going to be direct this month in your 2nd house of income. So on one hand, it's good for your finances, but it's also really great because when you believe that you deserve more, you will receive more. So speak up, ask for what you need, and you're very likely to get it. Then we have Aquarius. For you, Aquarius, this is happening in your 9th house of your philosophy, your beliefs. It can be about a relationship at a distance. It can be restructuring education or travel plans. Be more mindful if you are traveling this month, Aquarius, because you need to have on all those luggage tags and everything that's handled very well. Things can go missing. You can be planning a trip to a foreign land. You can be planning a program or wrapping up something dealing with education or your beliefs, but it's definitely something that's either far away or very spiritual that's kind of taking place. It's also very much to do with like gurus and your beliefs. Ace of Wands. So this is about action, motivation, new opportunities for physical changes, creativity, passion. So this is really great because it's saying that really what's being set up for you is some new adventure that you're going to be going on or something new that you're going to be starting. It may not really start until we get into Sag season. So you might want to wait until like the 2nd half of November for this to really get up and running. But this is definitely really great for creative pursuits. So if you're somebody who wants to publish something or if you're wanting to plan a really fun trip or anything like that, it looks like that is definitely going to be happening for you. And last but not least, my Pisces, this is a Mercury retrograde and all kinds of Libra energy that is hanging out in your 8th house of other people, secrets, psychological stuff. I feel like for many Pisces, this is going to be a real evaluation of their relationships with other people. They may have to say goodbye or really close the door on certain relationships. They become more aware of issues in intimacy and where they're not growing with another person financially, spiritually, or sexually. And for Pisces, this can be a more difficult place to have a retrograde because I also know that with the aspects that's happening to Pluto, it's almost like there's this setup that's going on for you right now where you're being asked to really change the way that you look at how you interact with other people and what other people can bring to the table. 8 of Cups. So this is about really releasing, letting go, walking away from not getting enough from others, walking away from not having enough spiritual support or sexual support, or feeling like there's stability or that there's security there, right? And going, that's it, I'm putting an end to this, I'm letting this go. Somebody may be leaving your life. Okay, they may be departing in some way. They may be moving away. They may be saying goodbye. They may be transitioning. The 8th house is definitely the area of this. And to me, this is something that's been a long time coming, or something that you've been at least aware of. So I think that you'll be able to navigate it okay. Needless to say, it is very emotional, and it's really important for you to let that go and not look back. Okay. Hopefully that was helpful for you guys. I appreciate you tuning in to my channel. Make sure you click the like for this video, the bell button, subscribe so you can be aware of when my videos come out. By liking, commenting, sharing, you make it possible for my videos to get out there into internet land, and for other astrology lovers to be able to hear what I have to say. Next week, we're going to take a deep dive on Monday into the new moon in Libra, and we're going to talk all about that. This Friday, I've got live readings. Stay tuned. I'm going to be posting that in my channel, and I'll give you the time that I'm going to be doing those readings. This week on Friday, we're going to be doing tarot readings. So if you want to get a tarot reading with me, you don't want to wait. You can get in and do that live. Let me know, do you want me to do a Mercury retrograde video? I've been playing around with the idea of this. I can do one if you guys would like me to, where I go in depth into all of the different aspects and how it's going to affect you guys, even more so deeply than how I did it in this video. Make sure that you catch my latest episode of the Midheaven podcast, which is out now. It's all about current events and some things that are going on out in the world with myself and the Peace Dealer. Equally, if you like my reading style and you would like to get a personalized reading with me, check out my links below. Check out my website at beyondtheveiltarot.com, where I am a Western and evolutionary astrologer. I do my sessions in a combination of what I see clairvoyantly and also working with tarot. I've been a reader for 14 years, and I've had my own private practice for going on 9 years. I'm an old lady now. Anyways, hopefully this is helpful for you guys. Leave me comments below. Let me know what you're excited about for the month ahead, and where you're already kind of feeling and experiencing the Mercury retrograde aspects in your chart. I will see all of you guys later this week. Have a very happy and spooky October, and I will talk to all of you guys very soon. Take care.